Good evening, televiewers, and thank you very much for joining us in tonight's edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. In tonight's edition, we are going to be looking at some of the consequences of postponing the report of the audit bench as far as the COVID-19 fund is concerned. And to discuss about this topic, we are having Derek Gallen with us in the studio, a Pan-Africanist, and once more we are having Mange Venashus. Good evening to you, Derek, and it's our pleasure always having you.
Good evening, Vanessa, and thanks for inviting. It's a pleasure too.
Mange Venashus, probably, like I said, often you will be with us now.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that the often should not be too often, Vanessa.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you to our viewers. It's another opportunity for us to discuss with them. You know, it's a pleasure always being there.
Yeah, because they're there, we ought to be there. You know, we are the eyes of the society, and so it is our duty and responsibility. Viewpoint is a debate program, and the whole team has to mobilize the producer, the sound technician, and of course, the cameraman in the studio. Let us have the first part of the show. In the first question, any reason for the delay in presenting audit bench report to the parliament? Derek, is there any reason for the delay?
There are,
or the postponement? Yes, there are. Venashus?
Vanessa, I don't see any reason at all.
No reason. And are there consequences to the non-presentation of the results? Mange Venashus?
Yes, there are consequences.
Yes. Derek?
There are.
There are. Yes. Coming up next, let us take the debate. Presenting the COVID-19 audit that was supposed to take place in Parliament. That is last Friday. The report was supposed to be presented last Friday, but then it has been postponed to a later date. And we are trying to find out if there is any reason for the delay. I will begin with you, Derek, who thinks that there should be possible reasons why the auditor has been postponed.
Well, I said in the affirmatory that there are reasons why this audit report has been postponed, even if there are reasons that are not welcomed by the ears of Cameroonians. But there are always reasons as far as Cameroon is concerned. And the first of the reasons, it's obvious. There is no one who will happily come out in public to stand and tell the public, I stole. I think the first delay is the fear of name calling, because when we talk about an audit report, so to say, it is the moment of name calling. And you know how it functions in our country. They will always keep telling you state machinery is slow but steady. But I think the only reason behind such endless postponement is just the belief in the fact that time heals all wounds. But unfortunately, I like to make it clear here, there are some wounds that no matter how long they stay, they'll never get healed. And some wounds, once they are not taken care of and you give them time, it is time for them to fester. And
are you in a way trying to start the funds have been mismanaged? Reason why there is this delay because they are afraid?
Definitely. The truth, you don't need effort to speak the truth, Vanessa. We're all aware of that. You don't need effort to speak the truth. Once there is unnecessary delay in presenting the truth, the only reason behind is fishy games. And when you look at this, there's a legal maxim which says justice long delayed is justice denied. Martin Luther King upheld that, and it's one of the reasons why he went to where he went to so early. And if the state of Cameroon were to prove themselves to the world as a distinguished country, it would have been when such an opportunity comes up, because this was an opportunity for the legal department of Cameroon to prove that Cameroon is a state of justice. It's a country that lives and abides by justice. Because we're told already the first phase of the COVID funds, they were handed a sum of 186 point something billion to manage. We are told that 167.7 have already been used out of the 186. But then, if a report, an audit report is requested, it's supposed to be a quarterly report, is requested from those who were put in charge of this amount, and after 1 year, apparently, if the statistics of Boris Betold is what I could go by, I would say if after 1 year, only one minister, the Minister of Public Health, would have presented something to the Minister of Finance as far as the report is concerned, I think it is criminal. It is criminal for those who managed these funds. And when we look at some of the reasons for these delays, we begin to wonder what the justice system in Cameroon is doing. Because we're told Medellin, the company that took contracts for supply of drugs, medication that was supposed to have been used to rescue Cameroonians during this COVID pandemic. If they claim to have used close to 500 million on drugs, which we are told they are drugs, instead of using the local capacity to bring out these drugs as was recommended, they purchased drugs elsewhere and repackaged them. And even after that, no one sees what the drugs were used for. Ambulances were purchased. They have never arrived till date. Overbilling of close to 15 billion was done. No one says anything about it. I think these are some of the reasons for the delays, because it would be difficult for you to get up and tell the Cameroonian government that your boss definitely asked you to sign a contract form where he was supposed to receive half of the budget that is sent to the public. There's nobody who has the courage to do that. And the first list after the first audit meeting came out, names were called. It's not something that was secret. The Prime Minister, beginning from the Prime Minister,
according to reports, it is said the government is divided as to whether it should be presented before lawmakers, that is to the Parliament, or not, since other ministers have been linked to theft as far as the funds of in the funds to cater for patients for COVID-19 are concerned.
Definitely, I said it's a moment of name calling. And that is why there are certain people who believe that they are already the gods and their names should not feature. And this, like I said, is the moment that the legal wing of the government was supposed to prove itself. But then, how do you take people to court who are the ones directly in charge of all the three arms of the government? It is impossible for justice to come in precisely because there is no independence as far as the three wings of the government are concerned, be it executive, legislative, or
the judiciary.
And the judiciary is helpless. It's like you bring call it the president of the Supreme Court to declare election results, and he would openly tell Cameroonians, my hands are tied. What's the meaning of my hands are tied? You're supposed to have the most free hands as far as the Cameroonian world is concerned. I mean, to bring to the guillotine anyone who is guilty of a crime. And if the Justice Department up till today sits quietly in the face of all this, I mean, it's criminal. It's a heinous crime that a group of Cameroonians who are supposed to be the most patriotic persons we have around are given the opportunity, the resources, that's the means to rescue Cameroonians from drowning in the ocean of the COVID, and they willingly mishandle the funds, and Cameroonians die the way they did. whereas there was a possibility of rescuing them. It is injustice that is supposed to be redressed. I started by saying justice delayed is long, justice denied. That is precisely because if you are given the opportunity, the resources and everything that is taken to bring justice to bear on the offender, and you let the person who has been injured continue to suffer without bringing justice in a timely manner, there injustice comes in. So I think the problem we have here is the untimely effort of the Supreme Court to bring justice to bear on the criminals. It's already clear it is a criminal case. We are not doubting that. But the issue now is,
that is your viewpoint.
Will justice come? Yeah, that's the viewpoint.
That is your viewpoint, of course. Let us take a point of view of Mange Venachus. Mange Venachus, the National Solidarity Fund to fight COVID-19 in Cameroon. The audit was supposed to take place last week, but then it has been postponed. We are still waiting for the audit to take place. Yet, it has been postponed. No concrete reason has been given. That is what you think.
Yes, Vanessa, postponement here is publishing the results to the parliament. That is what was expected. Remember, sometime last week, it was the Minister of Finance who announced that the results from the audit bench of the Supreme Court will be presented to the members of parliament who are rounding up the June session of parliament. It was supposed to take place last Friday, but it did not happen.
It did not happen.
Now, we are talking about mismanaging COVID-19 fund. Vanessa, I would want to modify the word, because when you call it mismanaging the COVID-19 fund, it looks something a bit natural, something a bit maybe mismanaging it can be like any other person
an
can
error
run.
Occur
yes,
it
there could be an error. But this is not the case. It is pure siphoning of public funds. It is pure swindling of public funds. Because when somebody signed a COVID test that was supposed to cost 7,000, 8,000 francs, is sold for 19,000 francs in Cameroon, that is not mismanagement. It's bad faith. When contract that was supposed to be awarded to companies that could deliver the goods are awarded to wrong companies because there are hidden motives. There are no egocentric motives behind. That is bad faith. And at the time that Cameroon needed the finances most, that is the time that, like Ngalim said, those who were supposed to promote this ideology of patriotism in Cameroon, because when we talk of government ministers, if they cannot be patriotic, who do you expect to be patriotic in Cameroon? If they cannot show that they value the common good, who do you expect to value?
Or even show a sign of integrity by handling it well.
That is why when we're discussing with some colleagues, and somebody said something that God will judge this generation so harsh than Sodom and Gomorrah. Because if you put things that are happening in this country, when people are dying of a virus that we don't or that we don't have a cure, there is money that we could fight, limit the casualty. People decide to siphon it and then play games to call it mismanagement. It's not mismanagement. It is siphoning of state funds. Now, because the information we got was it is pressure from the International Monetary Fund asking Cameroon government to justify how they have handled the funds that were given to Cameroon to fight COVID-19 pandemic. If the head of state called for the audit, and if up till now they have not presented the results to Cameroonians, because those parliamentarians represent Cameroonians, there are two things. Either the Supreme Court is not capable of carrying out that audit exercise, or delayance is to buy time so as to manipulate the results, fabricate something that may be, because they would have realized that the results of the audit, if presented to Cameroonians, could bring something that we did not envisage. Ngalim said something that there's this psychologist philosophy they are playing with, that time heals all wounds. This is a wound that we are afraid has refused to heal with time. And like he said, if we keep playing with time, it may develop into a sore. And if it becomes a sore, I don't know whether IMF will even be able to salvage the situation. Because where we are now, Cameroonians are asking the question, is it that these ministers are looking for every little opportunity to siphon money. When it comes to project, you hear mismanagement. That's why when we talk of corruption in Cameroon, ministers are the ones who are in prison because they have embezzled state funds. Because you are supposed to carry out a project, you siphon it. Now it comes to for health of Cameroonians who are dying. It's like somebody's in a hospital and you decide to siphon, to embezzle his hospital fees so that he should die. So I think that when we talk of reasons why they have not presented the report up till now, I think that the head of state should hit the table this time, because either the Supreme Court is already conniving with those concerned. Because if they give you a project, there's a time interval to carry out the project. The Minister of Finance was not a fool to announce that they are going to present the results to the Parliament on Friday. I remember on that Friday morning, the Guardian Post newspaper of that Friday edition indicated that 24 hours before the plenary session, the agenda, the idea of presenting the the audit results to the Parliament disappeared from the Parliament's agenda, because some hands behind the scene are trying to make sure that we identify it and remove it so that the people should not get it. But I think that they are playing with the wrong issue, Vanessa, at the wrong time. Because Cameroon, this is not the time that we should play with something like this in this country. Cameroonians, like the International Monetary Fund, need to know how the money was mismanaged. Or how the money was managed. We don't want to use the word mismanaged.
How the money was used.
Yes, how the money was used. And it shouldn't take time for ministers to bring the report of how the money was used. They simply give you 1 week and you present every detail.
Okay. Manga Venashus, thank you for your point of view. Are there consequences to the non-presentation of these results, therefore? So, Derek, what could be some of those consequences? I think that over time and as events have been unfolding, Cameroonians are already aware. They have this high IQ of reasoning, and they have discovered that trusting their leaders again, it has become so difficult. So, what could be, or how could that result to affecting the daily lives of Cameroonians?
I think I rightly said there are consequences as to the delay in the report, and it's true the innocent man has always suffered in Cameroon, and the consequences, I should say first, is that innocent heads are going to roll. We are aware of the fact that our prisons are filled with the innocent, whereas the criminals are running around the streets every day, given tight security, and they continue to steal every day. And the justice system will continue condemning the wrong people consciously and willingly. I bet you, when, like Mr. Mange said, if the president hits his hand on the table now, you will hear an exhaustive list of people going to Konenge. But the right people whose signatures are on the papers will not be among the people going to Konenge. That is the first unfortunate consequence, I'm afraid, innocent Cameroonians are going to face very soon. And that is sure to come. The wrong execution of, I don't want to call it justice, because when you willingly condemn and sentence the wrong person, it is injustice that is played. But
and of course, when justice is tampered, peace cannot prevail.
Peace cannot prevail. Like it has been said in the House already, they're playing with a bruise that very soon would fester into a sore. We already have so many sores in Cameroon, and because they kept saying time heals all wounds, and we're where we are. And I'm afraid another sore is about to come in, which may lead Cameroon to a cancer if we are not careful. The play that has been done around with the COVID-19 funds, probably it was taken as a pleasure trip at the very start. They did not foresee IMF putting in the kind of pressure they have put in. And what they have done this time around has opened the eyes of Cameroonians. I think if Cameroonians have been needing a man of God or a pastor or a priest or whatsoever to perform a miracle of opening the eyes of the blind, I think our ministers have done it for us this time around. Because this is a 21st century miracle. And it has been done, and the performer of the miracle, I think, should be wishing he had not performed the miracle. But it is there already. What are the options? Someone has to go down for it. My prayer is innocent Cameroonians should not have their lives on the line because of justice that is not done to the guilty person. Normally, at the end of every literary work, they say there is always either justice done to the person who has been unjustly treated, or there is punishment to the person who has offended another. But the kind of country where we are, Vanessa, I think our fervent hope for now is justice for once should happen in Cameroon. And like I said previously, the real consequence I would like and pray for as far as the management of these COVID funds is concerned is the fact that people should not just be sent to Konengi. I'll prefer you're laid on the table and justice of the whip is done on you and the money falls on the table. That is the justice that Cameroon requires now. We don't need people going to Konengi. We're filling our prisons with innocent persons and wasting the nation's resources to feed them every day, knowing fully well that they are innocent. So what is the need of continuing sending people to Konengi? You send him to spend the rest of his life, it will not bring Cameroonians. But he has the billions in his account. Yes, he has billions in his house account. Or wherever so he might get the justice that Cameroonians require here is money should fall on the table. If the unjust man requires a guillotine, let the guillotine fall on his neck. But I think the justice I pray for as far as this is concerned is that the money should come out from the various accounts where it has been deposited, and it should do what it was supposed to do for Cameroonians. It's true, the COVID is becoming history, even if the world doesn't want to. A lot
of things has been happening within this period of the coronavirus, because even the rights that was given, it could not be explained how it was distributed. A lot of things just going on, and Cameroonians every day are aware of that.
Yeah, I think if Cameroonians still continue to believe that entrusting their lives to the Ministry of Public Health or to the Cameroonian government is a secure thing to do, I think we are going in for something. Yesterday evening, there is a video trending social media. A deputy of the National Assembly of this country, I mean, standing and advocating.
Anyway, that would be a topic.
No, it's part of it. It's part of it. Advocating.
But that we'll bring it in another form. Yes, I've understood. All of you have understood.
I hope I'll be the one to complete it. Our audience should be patient for that.
No, we hope so too. Mange Shoes, what could be some of those consequences as far as delaying the audit report is concerned?
Vanessa, what this government has shown to us, when I say this government, let's be frank here. Not every minister is concerned with it.
Yeah.
There are some ministries that were aloof. It's like they sidelined them in the management of COVID-19. And I think that in their corners, they are thanking their God, that thank you, God, I was not involved. But the reality on the ground is what those who were involved with the management of these funds, yes, the implication would be that is why the respect of barrier measures in Cameroon has refused to take effect. Camerooners do not believe that anything exists like COVID-19. That is why every effort government is making to talk about the idea of vaccination. Nobody is accepting it because there is no COVID.
Even the doctors and the nurses at the forefront of the fight of the pandemic, they are refusing.
Because if money came in to manage the fight of the pandemic and ministers decide to sit on it, is there any pandemic? They know that there is nothing. That is why they did not see any reason taking money to go and invest in producing drugs. We can go and buy the drugs. And that is why they deceived Cameroonians. So Cameroonians are ready to realize that there is no sincerity with what surrounds the COVID issue in Cameroon. And that is why when you tell somebody to put on a face mask, he has the impression that you are deceiving him. Just like they deceived them that there is COVID. Vanessa was reading something In Zimbabwe, from yesterday, Zimbabwe has entered into level 4 lockdown. South Africa has entered into level 4 lockdown. COVID-19 is gaining ground in East Africa gradually. Kenya is into it. Uganda is into it. South Africa they have discovered another new variant in South Africa called the Delta variant. It was discovered last Friday. But yet in Cameroon, we don't even believe that it exists, because the money that was meant to fight the pandemic, minister said there is nothing, embezzled the money, and that is why it is difficult for us to fight the pandemic. That is the consequences. And the second consequences is lives of Cameroonians are at risk, because if what is happening in South Africa should hit Cameroon,
exactly,
Vanessa, all of us will die. Because just take a look at the street. How many people are wearing face masks? Do you still see the bucket that the head of state gave? That was a gift that President Paul Biya gave to Cameroonians. Do you still see it?
We even saw a public toilet written there that
there was constructed with the
COVID-19 funds.
Is that the purpose for the money? Is it not shifting the goalpost in this fight? So I think that the consequences will have enormous ramification in our society, which I think that if we are to handle these consequences, let us be careful, let us be sincere with managing the audit results from the Supreme Court.
From the Supreme Court. Mange Venatius, thank you very much for contributing, and Derek, hope to have you some other time. Probably we'll continue with the discussion where we ended.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your keen attention on this in this midweek edition of Viewpoint. Take the rendezvous for tomorrow, coming up at 7 p.m. We'll be having the primetime newscast in the English language with Cynthia Mbemo. Do take care and stay blessed.
Coronavirus is not an imagination or an invention. It is a real threat that spares no one. We are already counting so many casualties the world over. The situation is serious, and we individually have the choice to scrupulously respect prescribed norms to preserve lives or die by mortgaging the lives of others. Therefore, our responsibility is strongly solicited in rigor and discipline. To stay safe, we need to regularly wash hands with soap, cough or sneeze on the elbow or on a handkerchief. Use a disposable tissue